Hi, everyone, and welcome you to Reset Your Life Summit here. I'm Evette Rose, and I have amazing guest speaker, Katie Chin, here with me today. Katie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Evette.
Now, everyone, I'm so excited because Katie here is a celebrity chef. She's also an award-winning cookbook author. She's a caterer. She's a culinary ambassador to the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation as well. And she's also a regional ambassador to women's entrepreneurship and also day and co-chair of LA Mayor Eric Garcetti's AAPI LA United Task Force. And Katie, you've also been on numerous TV appearances, which includes also Beat Bobby Flay, The Today Show, Cutthroat Kitchen, The Real, and you were also a guest judge on the Food Network's Iron Chef America. And then just to top that off, if that's not already good enough for you guys, like in 2013, Katie was also featured chef at the annual Easter egg roll at the White House under the Obama administration. Wow, what an inspiration you are. That is amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. It has not been boring.
I can imagine. I can absolutely imagine. You know, it's like you're living your passion, you're living your dream. I mean, what I'm just seeing here and what I know about you is because I've personally actually connected with you in LA, you know, and just the vibrancy that you bring, I can actually completely testify here that your energetic stance, who you are, how you speak, how you carry yourself, everything is just that of someone that is walking exactly where she wants to go. She knows where she wants to go, and you just live and breathe that. I'm so excited to have you here today because I'm gonna be diving into Katie and your mindset in terms of how you found your passion and how you can also help our viewers to kind of like tap back into their beautiful talents and gifts as well. So I'm so excited to have you here. So now it begs the question, I have to ask, what inspired you to become a chef? Because this is a very unique type of, you know, field. It requires, you know, of course, certain desires and something that you would absolutely love more so than anything else. So I want to know, what is it that stood out so much about this for you?
Well, it's sort of a long story, but I feel that it's important to tell because it's a very inspirational story. Not mine, my mother's story. She immigrated from China in 1956 to Minneapolis, Minnesota, where I was born and raised. She was making 50 cents an hour as a seamstress, and she always loved to cook. And one day she threw a luncheon for some sewing clients in the early 1970s, and they were so blown away by her cuisine, they encouraged her to start teaching classes and to cater. And one thing led to another, and she became a successful caterer. And then the socialite wanted to open a restaurant with my mom, and she happened to know the owner of the Minnesota Twins, the baseball team. And that person was friends with Sean Connery, the original 007. My mother happened to cater a party for Robert Redford, who was directing the film Ordinary People in Minneapolis. And Sean Connery came to visit his friend. And I was there serving Sean Connery dumplings. It was crazy. And he ended up investing in my mother's first restaurant. And once people found that out, she opened more and more restaurants. And believe it or not, by the mid 1980s, my mother had over 30 restaurants, and her company was sold to General Mills, and they decided to make her president of the division. Now, meanwhile, you know, my mother had been making 50 hours as a seamstress and never even went to high school. So it was really an incredible story. And she ended up buying the company back and creating a chain with over 50 locations. So I grew up working in my mother's catering business in the basement of our tiny home in Minneapolis, gritting my teeth, resenting every moment of it. But we knew something magical was happening to my mom. All the other kids were at the mall or ice skating, and we were stuck in the basement, you know, frying chicken pizzas. So I vowed to never work in the food industry and to get the hell out of Minnesota because it was freezing cold and no Asians. So anyway, long story short, I moved to LA after college. I worked in the entertainment industry for 14 years at studios like Fox and Disney and Universal. And one day I had completely forgotten how to cook. And I kept calling my mom and asking her questions because I was trying to throw a dinner party. And she was like, this is ridiculous. So my mother got on a plane with frozen lemon chicken and showed up at my doorstep. She cooked the entire meal, but she let everyone think that I had cooked it because she was just that kind of mom. And then meanwhile, she opened my fridge and found only champagne and yogurt and was completely mortified. So she set out to teach me how to cook again. So she kept flying to LA, teaching me and my friends how to cook. And they were like, oh my gosh, you guys make this look so easy. You should do a book together. And I was like, we should do a book together. And then my passion for cooking was reignited, but I also was very unhappy in my life. I wasn't happy in my job. I was a senior VP at Fox. I mean, I was very successful, but I felt very empty. I didn't feel passionate about it. I didn't feel fulfilled. And I wasn't happy in my marriage. So I just decided to change my life completely. And I quit my job and I left my then husband all in the same month, which I don't recommend doing both of those things in the same month, but it all worked out. And then she and I came together and we did a book together. We had a show on PBS together. We got to go to China for the Food Network, and we had all these, really incredible adventures together. And I feel like that was the greatest gift of all because she passed away 11 years ago.
Wow. Bless her. What a mom.
Yeah.
My goodness.
So now is to honor her culinary legacy.
Wow. And listen, Katie, that you are. I mean, your mom, I can only imagine how proud she is right now. Absolutely. That's just amazing what you've done and what you continue to create. You really, truly are creating a lasting legacy. Now, I have to ask you, I really heard when you said, you left, the job, the husband, everything all in that's such a short span of time. That's a massive, it's huge decisions to make in such a short span of time. And I have to ask, how did you find the courage, to quit your job and to leave your husband all at the same time? Like, what was that fire in you? What was that calling in you?
I just had this sensation in my body that I was meant to do something else. I can't even explain it to you, but something was just willing me to change my life completely. I will say I didn't have kids, so it was easier for me to take this big risk. Right. And it sounds a little corny, but I happened to see this quote from Oprah that said, leap and the net will appear. And I was like, you know what? It's true. Like, what is the worst thing that could happen to me if I take this big risk? And, there's a cost to doing everything, to staying in a situation that you're unhappy in, to taking a risk. But I felt like if I don't take the risk, I will live with regret. And I didn't want to live a life filled with regret. So I can't even explain it. I just went for it.
That's incredible. And so when you did that, what did it feel like? What were your thoughts? What were you thinking in that first initial stages just after you did that?
It was so incredibly liberating. And, when you make a huge life change like that, you find out who your friends are. And there are people that abandoned me because I looked perfect on paper and they felt like, I don't even know who you are. Plus, people project. Too scary for them to do something like that, to leave a safe, well-paying job. So, they're so scared. They judge you instead. So I was feeling exhilarated. I felt like I had escaped from jail. Wow. And I actually studied acting because I had always had this desire to act. So I just did all these things that I always had wanted to do. But my acting coach actually said, sometimes you have to become crazy to become sane. And also because everyone thought I'd been crazy, I just didn't care. I mean, they thought I was crazy anyway, so I could do whatever I wanted. And I just stopped caring so much about what people thought. And that was truly liberating.
That's amazing. That's amazing because, some people who make that break initially, for me also having been through divorce and having given up a company all at the same time, I kind of, and that's where I really clicked with you. I really resonated so deeply with that. And for me, I think what I'm seeing is your mindset was so incredibly positive because you looked at the bigger picture. You looked at the bright side of it, where I can actually see where I kind of like dipped, I went into the dark side of it where I felt there, wow, what do I do now? And I felt so unresourceful instead of seeing the limit, the unlimited potentials and solutions and resources that were actually around me, but my state of mind was not as healthy. It wasn't as strong at that time. And I'm seeing here what you're saying is that your mindset is what really helped to make, you know, make you strong in that moment and to stand strong and moving forward in this decision that you made, because you didn't wobble, you just kept moving, and you actually really went in, you went all in on doing what it is that you love. Like you really dived into your passion. And I wanted to ask you, what did it feel like for you, apart from, you know, there was liberation, but what would you say is like signs or emotions or states or thoughts that you would have when you know that you're starting to move towards your passion?
Well, it was exhilarating, but it was also extremely frightening because it was truly stepping into the unknown, shedding my skin, reacquainting myself with my identity and who I thought I should be. I kind of felt like I was living a lie, trying to please other people, being in like a sham of a marriage and keeping up this, you know, this face and facade that everything was okay. So it was a combination of feelings. I felt excited, I felt exhilarated, I felt hopeful, but then other days I'd feel completely depressed and alone, right? Scared, you know, imposter complex. Like, I'm not a chef. I never went to culinary school. What am I doing? And also regressed a little bit because I was all of a sudden, you know, under my mother's tutelage. So I kind of regressed a little and became like a bratty teenager during this phase as well, because I was like, I don't know if I really want to be peeling shrimp the rest of my life. And I was sort of drawn to doing, you know, marketing and, you know, sales for the company. But then, you know, once I truly understood my purpose, to honor her culinary legacy, to really dig in, to learn from her, to accept these gifts, but I had to work for it.
Yeah.
Right. I think I kind of was swept up in the vanity in the beginning, but then I learned, I sort of learned my lesson because she abandoned me and went to Europe for 3 months, and I was left alone to run the catering business by myself. But she knew exactly what she was doing.
Right. She was preparing you.
And she knew the only way that I could learn is by leaving.
Right. Right. So, you know, as we know with, you know, Katie, with, you know, when we start something new, there's always obstacles, right? There's challenges or there's obstacles, but also I guess it's a matter of perspective. But I can only imagine that this was probably one of the obstacles that you had to learn how to overcome when you were starting to move towards starting your new career. But what other obstacles did you also have to, you know, confront, and apart from also our ego and the vanity that you also said, what other things did you feel was a bit challenging for you as well during that time? Because as we know, I mean, and I'm sure everyone's like hanging on the seats right now, because we can all relate to that. When we start something new, there's going to be sometimes challenges, sometimes there's going to be obstacles, but the big hanging question always is, what did you do to overcome that? Like, what did that person do to overcome that? And what can I do to overcome mine?
Sure. I mean, many obstacles when you change your life like that completely, both personally and professionally. Off the bat, I felt sort of insecure because my entire life had been identified by my career, by working for, ooh, you work for Disney, ooh, you work for 20th Century Fox. So I had to kind of take my ego out of it, because I realized I'm not defined by what I do. Right. I'm not defined by this big brand that I work for. I had to overcome these feelings of insecurity with, you know, finances. I wasn't, you know, getting a steady paycheck anymore. I had to overcome these feelings of entitlement. Well, I was an executive, and then suddenly I'm like lugging, you know, big bags of trash up the stairs as a caterer. I had to overcome feelings of loneliness because I left my husband, and then I was dating again. So I had a lot of interesting hurdles, but all the while, I think I overcame them really through my network of friends, turning to friends and mentors for help, imagining that, because I read this other quote, that you have to sort of imagine you're on you're a gymnast and you're on a balance beam, and you have imaginary spotters. And the imaginary spotters are your friends and your family that are there lifting you up, supporting you, but you just have to mentally always think they're there, helping you, supporting you, and they will not allow you to fall. And if you fall, they're going to help pick you back up again. So that was important. And once again, asking for help and, learning to, find and seek mentors, and admit that I didn't know everything, and not be afraid to admit that, gosh, I've never done a P&L for a food business. How do I do this? Right.
Yeah.
So I think finding mentors, asking for help, and also just really, trying to stay positive, because I was like, look, I could have stayed in that life that I had, but how lucky am I that I had the choice to make a change? Because a lot of people don't have the choice.
Yeah. That is so true. And, also what you said, that in a way where it's hard to stay in an uncomfortable situation, but not as hard as actually end up living it. So at the end of the day, both avenues will be a little bit uncomfortable, but one can actually be uncomfortable temporarily, but then set you free over the long term. And so you saw that bigger picture, and you are a big picture person from what I'm hearing, because that is really where you find your power, because you see the outcome and you stay connected to that. And another thing that I absolutely love what you just shared here, that I'm absolutely taking away from this today, which was very powerful for me, I call it like golden nugget moments, is when you said, feel the support around you, pretend that they are already there. And there's this saying also, feel the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and then take action. So if for example, if it's support that you need, then imagine that you have all these people around you supporting you in the here and now, even though they're physically not there, but know that they are energetically there. And so whatever lack it is that you feel that you have, pretend that you actually have that in your environment right now. And then act, though, of course, with discernment. I mean, it depends what also you're acting on, right? But I mean, this is so powerful. This is absolutely powerful, because just thinking of something such as having support, your body biochemically responds to that in a positive way, because now you're energizing it from a positive perspective. And now it actually allows the body chemically and also, emotionally, to brace itself to take action based on a step that's now going to be taken, thinking and feeling that the support is here, which is, of course, going to make you feel safer, more confident, more in alignment with where it is that you're going to go, because there's always this feeling of, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. That's very powerful. I absolutely love that.
Yes. And I think it's the whole aura of love, right? For me,
yes.
Like it's the support, but it's this whole feeling of love, which I think has really helped me.
I absolutely agree with you. That's very powerful. That's such a key takeaway for me. Now, I also wanted to ask you here, because we've all been through COVID. We've all been hit by COVID. I mean, some of us have, especially such as yourself, your company is all about, entertainment, it's connection, it's with people, it's face-to-face, it's dining. It's also, maybe there's certain programs that you would attend, or maybe there's, training other chefs, whatever that is, there's human interaction. And now COVID comes, and now life is flipping literally to the opposite side of what you are used to, and especially for your career. How did you pivot during COVID? Like, what did you do during COVID, for example, with your career? Like, first of all, what was your thoughts when they said, boom, now there's lockdown? What was your position at emotionally and psychologically? What happened there for you?
Well, my whole family was stunned. And I think we were in shock, like everybody, and afraid of the unknown. We decided to just pack up and move to our mountain home, where we stayed for 7 months.
Oh,
and
wow.
we tried to stay positive. I think, really for our children too, because you have to set that example. And I know everybody felt anxiety and fear, and a lot of people became extremely depressed. But I felt like I had a responsibility to, try to stay positive for my children.
Yeah.
As far as my career, I couldn't cater, obviously. So I'm an extrovert. I have a hard time not being around people. So I thought of the next best thing. And I just turned to my daughter, Becca, who's 13. And I said, hey, do you want to do a cooking show together? And she was like, okay. So we started doing a cooking show 3 times a week, a live stream show. We still do it on Sundays at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. It was called Cooped Up Cooking with Katie and Becca. We changed the name because people don't want to feel cooped up right now. But we would do the show 3 times a week. And we had really funny themes like learn to love your lockdown leftovers and teaching people how to, forage in their pantry or their fridge to make good use of, any leftovers or things that they had in their pantry that they didn't think about cooking. We tried to, integrate healthy recipes. We had jokes, we had trivia, we got sponsors, we did giveaways. Becca would do a TikTok dance break in the middle of the show. And she gained all these fans because, first of all, she just has no filter and she just bosses me around. So
what a dynamic.
Mommy, I forgot to mention the sponsors, mommy. So it was really a beautiful thing for us to do together. It was really a lot of fun. But for me personally, I felt connected to other people. And even though it was on, live stream, I felt their energy coming back at me, which kept me sane. It really, really helped me feel like a human. I felt like you know what it was? Every time we did the show, I felt like I was throwing a party.
I love that.
And I love throwing parties. So that's something that really, really helped me and kept me sane. Which
and
led
everyone was invited.
Yeah, exactly. Anybody's invited. But, funnily enough, this company found me by watching our live stream show. And then they hired me to start teaching virtual classes. So I've taught over 125 virtual classes for them.
Wow.
Since it started. So, I also say you just never know in life. Like I didn't set out to turn that into any kind of business, but it, ended up being a fantastic revenue stream for me just by doing the show. We got, noticed. So sometimes you might not have a concrete plan for results, but you never know what something could lead to, so sometimes just trust your instincts.
That's so true. I fully agree with you on that. And, I'm sure you've also probably seen when we look at how COVID has changed also our mindset, the fear that it's created. And a lot of people also do a lot of comfort eating. Maybe a lot of people didn't actually eat enough because sometimes, they go the opposite way. I sometimes don't eat a lot when I feel stressed, where some people, the opposite. So it all really depends what our comfort food is. And I find also, and I'm seeing this with a lot of people where they've gotten stuck in really bad diet cycles because of COVID. Sometimes they don't want to really cook because you're cooking the same thing over again. You can't really go out a lot because you can, buy all the things that you need to make all these fun, extravagant meals. So, and what I love about, moments that I've seen here on your shows as well, is that you actually have a lot of fun with food. You have fun with the food.
We try to have fun with the food because people are so, people had to learn how to cook 3 meals a day. And they're like, I'm just so sick and tired of making the same 6 things over and over and over again. And I feel like food is, it is storytelling, and there's so much rich history behind a lot of different recipes. And I also think, it's really a gateway for children to learn about other cultures. And it's a great way to just get people to talk about, our differences through food and through cooking. But it should be fun. It should be something that brings families together. It should be a way for us to nourish our mind, body, and soul. It should be something that people look forward to and not begrudge, right? But I think there's, creative ways to do that, especially in a family.
And that is exactly what I know the viewers are going to find out when they dive into your books, and especially this wonderful gift that you'll be mentioning for us a little bit later. And also, watching your shows, your YouTube channel, finding you there and just getting to get a feel for how can I reinvent cooking? How can I actually have fun with that? Because I know that when I enjoyed cooking something, it's almost like the food actually tastes better. Have you noticed that? Like, I mean, I'm sure you've noticed that, but it's interesting when you've actually enjoyed cooking it. It's like there's something just more enjoyable about it.
Well, yeah, don't you think when you're cooking with your child or your spouse or your friends, you're putting the energy of everyone together into that meal. You're putting in laughter, you're putting in, a story that was shared, you're putting in, enthusiasm. Like you might be in the middle of a story and maybe you put in a little more, chili pepper than you normally would, but I think that all affects the dish. I think it really does. Because don't you think when you're cooking with a bunch of friends, it just tastes better?
That is so true. It's true. I love it. It's also for me very important to cook together, and with my husband, and sometimes I have people coming over and I get them involved, and the great conversations that you can have while you're preparing something that everyone's going to enjoy, and everyone can kind of throw a bit of in what they want to have in the meal, and what they don't want to have, they can take it out. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I fully agree.
Yeah, and then I think conversely, from like all the energy making of cooking with a bunch of friends, it can be very meditative to cook something like dumplings or something that takes a long time, like a stew, for example. Sometimes that can be a very meditative, inward activity that can really help you relax, right? So I think it depends on what you need at a particular moment in your life. Cooking, can be a means of healing for sure, not just to nourish your body, but mentally as well.
And that I can absolutely testify to that, because I know when I'm cooking, I feel so relaxed. Like whatever stress I had, it's almost like my mind just switches to a completely different state. And because when you're cooking, you have to pay attention to what you're doing. What spices do I want? You have to like pretend, what would it taste like if I added this? So you're really connecting to your senses. You're really being pulled into the present moment. You can't think of anything else. You can't think of any problems, because you're so getting lost in all these sensory, moments within you, and using your imagination.
That is so true. You're right. You're focused on the activity. You're focused on the steps, what goes into it. You're focused on, tasting it, the sensory experience. I also think, for me, because I have a catering business, right? Sometimes I have to make like 500 dumplings. Again, just like the repetitive nature of doing something like that over and over and over again. It's almost trance-like sometimes. Yeah. So I kind of go into a trance doing it, and it kind of clears my mind to do it. So I think it can be so healthy on so many levels, depending on what you're cooking, obviously, but all in moderation, right? Because you don't want to feel like, like you said, some people stopped eating because they felt a lot of stress, right? But we also can't feel like we're being restricted, because then you feel like you're missing out, and then that's when people start to binge. So I mean, I think that's a big challenge with American diets, that's people true. Feeling deprived, then binging, then deprived again, and then binging again. So yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah, that's true. But I love how you're going to bring balance to people's lives with this wonderful work that you've been creating, and also, the new viewers that will be, meeting you and seeing, oh, here's Katie, let's reinvent cooking. Let's dive into that, because absolutely you are rewriting cooking in such a beautiful new way that, it's people would just have to find out for themselves to actually really experience, to understand what it is that I'm trying to say here, because it is truly just an experience within itself. Now, also, you are also a businesswoman. You're a mom, you're a wife, you have a business, and you have several platforms that you find yourselves on. You have so many other avenues where you get invited to. You remind me of this person that just loves to connect and to just love to do things. It's almost like you would just, you'd love to say yes to supporting, to love to say yes to bringing changes into people's lives. And what I love about this business concept that you're creating, and yet also being in this place of balance with all these other different things that you're doing, what advice can you perhaps also give to other like budding entrepreneurs? Like, what can you share with them as, you know, someone that's done so much, and, you know, you've done the hard work, you're still playing a lot, you're still having fun. And how can we, what advice can you give to them to become extremely successful, but also to continue to have the balance in their life like you do?
Well, listen, becoming an entrepreneur is so exciting, and I would never trade my experience for anything. It's been a wild roller coaster ride, you know, that's for sure. The advice I'd like to give is, really just try to stay true to yourself. Again, find mentors, ask for help, but also, you have to take risks, because if you hold back, you're never going to realize your full potential. The other advice I'd like to give is, we all have roadblocks that appear in our lives personally and professionally. And I like to say, when one door closes, climb through a window. Just figure out another way, figure out a creative solution. You are an entrepreneur, you have the freedom. So I've had certain things happen to me where I'm like, I could crawl in, like we got turned down by the Food Network, my mother and I, I could have just like let that keep me down and define the rest of my career. But I just woke up the next day and I was like, there's got to be another way. And I took the risk. I found a producer living in Hawaii that had produced a bunch of shows. And my husband, Matthew, and I, we were dating at the time, decided to go to Hawaii on vacation. And I just found her number and I called her and I was like, do you want to have coffee? And she said, yes. So don't be afraid either of that phone call, reaching out, sending that email. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? Like maybe they'll ignore you, but who cares? Move on, right? They're not going to call you and up and say you're an idiot. You have to just try. So, I mean, literally, this was just like one of those golden moments in my life. Called the producer, we had coffee, and we literally had a show ready to film a month after that. So
wow,
believe me,
that's fast.
Nobody's better than you are. Like everybody puts on their pants the same way. You know what I mean? Like everybody started out somewhere. And I feel like with women, women get a bad rap sometimes in business, that we're catty to each other, we're bitchy, we don't help each other out. I found that the opposite is true. Maybe there's a small percentage of women that are like that, but I find that if you meet a woman that's going to support you, she's going to support you 110%.
Yeah.
And I have to say 98% of all my interactions with other women have been of that caliber. So I love this saying, it's for every successful female entrepreneur, there's 5 other successful female entrepreneurs that have her back. And I have just so taken that to heart, and it has, helped me tremendously.
I fully agree with you. And, I see that in my life as well. The people who kind of you, or at least that you would feel would go against you, for me, is in the minority. I find that I am so tremendously supported, whether it's a professional challenge or an emotional challenge, or, just supporting each other with our careers, giving each other shout outs. It's like, wow. It's almost like this feeling of sisterhood, this feeling of feminine collective support coming together, where there's so much love that the ego just cannot exist in that. And that's what I'm feeling. It's when real, true compassion, self-compassion bridges and it meets. That's when you have this magic, this platform of support just unfolding. It's a very nurturing environment.
Yeah, I mean, it's been incredibly fulfilling and magical. I mean, anytime I meet anybody really, but women entrepreneurs in particular, the first thing I say is, how can I help you? And because people taught me how to do that. And I just automatically do that now. And it has just made my life so completely enriched. And I also think another key, element to being an entrepreneur is to give back to the community. Yeah. My mother taught me that. She was an incredible philanthropist. But I have to say, by doing that, it has, oh my goodness, affected my career like exponentially. For example, when I was a culinary ambassador for City of Hope. It's a leading cancer research hospital. You know, I didn't get paid to do that. My parents both passed away due to cancer. So I felt like it was a really important cause and mission for me. Well,
Wow.
that led to me going to the White House
Yeah.
because they pitched me to be one of the celebrity chefs at the White House under the Obama administration. So many incredible gifts have really, you know, come my way. But again, without expecting anything in return. I mean, I think you have to be pure of heart when you
Yeah.
give back, but
That-
it has been so amazing for me in so many ways.
That is incredible. That is incredible. So, I mean, I can see how community service has, you know, deeply enhanced also your quality of life and, you know, helping you to see things also from such a different perspective and to give so selflessly. You know, that is also for me what I see, that's something that's part of all our purposes. It's almost like a collective purpose and mission that we all collectively share, because if we don't have these elements ignited within us, that is when, you know, humanity starts, or at least ceases to exist, because we are biologically designed to be in community, to support each other, to help each other, and to help each other to progress, because that's also how we have breakthroughs. That's how we learn. That is how we advance in our life. That's how we evolve. But it's almost like we've become evolved in a very competitive environment instead of in a very loving environment as well. And so what I love here, but what I'm hearing from what you're saying as well, is that bring the love with you, bring the love with the community service that you do, give a little bit back, because you never know whose life you're going to touch. You never know, that one word or that one hug or that one action that you might take can be absolutely life-changing for someone else. Because I've noticed that so many people, because they don't see the immediate feedback in terms of what they do, they think, why bother? But I'm like, wow, wait, hang on. Just because you don't see feedback, it doesn't mean that what you're doing is not groundbreaking for someone else.
And most definitely. And sometimes it's just a show of kindness to somebody that needs it, right? Just
Exactly.
saying, reaching out to a stranger because you sense something's not quite right,
Yeah.
just offering, you know, a hand can change somebody's life, right? With small gestures even. But I think that especially in this time of COVID, we just have to really figure out ways to connect, right? Find our humanity in everything that we do. But as far as striking balance with work, you know that you know my husband Matthew. Did you know that we started a band during COVID?
No, but I remember we sang karaoke in Santa Monica, but I had no idea you started a band. What?
I do. I still do it all the
Awesome.
time. It really brings people together. But he wanted to start a band, and it was like one of the best things we could have ever done. And
Fun.
we recruited a couple of friends that were also beginners. Our friend Tony's a drummer. He's in his 50s. He had just started playing drums, you know, like first grade level. And Matthew, the same thing with electric guitar. We recruited my good friend. He's the lead singer. My friend from high school plays keyboard, and we have a bassist. And that was just really so fun for, you know, my husband and I to do together. But it was also something to look forward to.
Yes.
So I think, you know, it's first of all so important to practice self-care. People are under so much stress right now because of COVID, and because we still feel uncertainty, right? And we don't know necessarily what the world's going to look like, but we have to carve out time for ourselves. Whether that's, you know, sitting and writing your morning pages, going to karaoke, taking a dance class. But it's just so vitally important to take care of ourselves and to soothe our souls.
That's absolutely correct. And what I love what you do, and what I'm seeing now Matthew doing with you as well, you and your whole family are like the fun family. Like you just know, you know, fun things to do when the times go bad. It's like, no, we don't go there. Come, let's go. Let's do something fun. You know, it's almost like you break the pattern, you break that cycle before it gets really dark, before, you know, you plummet into that state of depression, you nip it in the butt immediately. You are mentally and emotionally so proactive. That's fantastic. You know, to have that mindfulness of realizing, wait, something is, you know, taking a bit of a spin here. Let's do something positive instead. I love that.
It wasn't a survival, instinct or tactic. It just, I think I'm just wired that way. So I'm
Exactly.
lucky that my mind just took over to be active. But I know that it's not easy for everybody. I think I was just born that way. And but sometimes it doesn't work in my favor because I take on too much. Right.
Right.
I have a hard time saying no to things. I say yes to everything.
Okay.
I don't want to look down, I have the overachieving Asian gene. So I've tried to learn through this process to, listen, it's not a race, right? It's
I
a long
always say
life.
that's true. That's so true. And I always say that life is not a sprint, it's a marathon. So pace yourself, be comfortable, and watch your mind, watch what you put into your body. And if you can do that, then it can be a very comfortable marathon as well.
Right. But, once again, it's trying to remember to find that balance, strike that balance. And as an entrepreneur, it's hard to turn it off. It's not like,
I know.
at 6 o'clock you work. I'm sure you can relate to this.
Yeah.
24/7. And I literally could be working, 12 hours a day. And sometimes I'm guilty of that. But, we have a puppy. He helps keep me in line.
Oh, that's
And
good.
yes, consciously carve out, tomorrow I only have a 90-minute window at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, a very strange time, but I'm meeting my friend Steve in Koreatown to sing karaoke for 90 minutes.
Good.
Or
Decompress.
just two of us, because it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, singing for 90 minutes, because I know that 90 minutes is going to bring me joy. And I know, just like the cooking thing we were talking about, during those 90 minutes when you're singing, you can't think about anything else.
Yes, that's it. That's exactly it. So Katie, so there's already a lot of things that you've shared, so much great information with us. But before I let you go, because I know you're a busy businesswoman, you're a busy mom and a busy wife, I would love to know, is there anything that you can still share with our viewers about how to unlock your true passion? Is there any last little bit of golden nuggets that you can share with us?
Well, for me, it wasn't an immediate realization that cooking was going to become my passion. For me, it was identifying my purpose first. Once I realized my purpose was to honor my mother's culinary legacy and to set an example for my son and my daughter, that's what ignited my passion. So I think if you can try to identify what your purpose is, that's going to lead to what your passion is, and that's going to drive everything else. So, there's, some exercises that you can do to help identify what your purpose should be in life. What makes you happy? What makes your heart sing? What makes you feel like you've contributed to society? So there's, some simple exercises that you can do. But I think you really, most importantly, have to listen to your heart, because life is short. And, the advice I like to give is, if not now, then when? If you don't take that risk now, do you really want to wake up 20 years from now and live with regrets? Right. Nobody does.
Yeah. I love that. Guys, there you have it. Don't live in regret. Just take action and have fun with your life. Be mindful and dive deep into what it is that makes you happy. We all have that little something that makes us happy. And I'm so happy to have had you here on the summit here with me, Katie. Thank you so much for your love, your time, and your energy. And guys, also Katie is also giving you a copy of her book, Katie Chin's Global Family Cookbook. So you'll find that here on the summit page, and then you can dive deep into that and start to nurture your body and page through it and see and listen to what is it that your body wants, what does it need to be nurtured with right now. So Katie, I want to give you such a big thank you for being here with me today. So deeply appreciated.
Thank you so much for having me, Evette. It's always wonderful to talk with you.
Wonderful. Thank you, beautiful Katie. And also for everyone here that was joining us. Until next time, be the light that you are. Bye, everyone.